Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Day 8, training camp. Third padded practice. It was hot and muggy in New Jersey. And trust me, I know what August in New Jersey feels like. I grew up there. I know what it feels like. But yeah, so yesterday, the team probably had their best practice. Today, I think the practice was pretty solid from the reports that I'm reading, for all the videos that I'm putting up. You could lean towards the defense winning the day, but the offense did come back strong during the later part of practice. They did say that this was one of the longer practices, going over 2 hours, so that's pretty cool. But I want to jump into some of the injuries because that's how this is the format. We talk about some of the injuries. So Brian Daboll was at the podium today, said there was no changes when it came to guys that were injured. But he did add that Darius Slayton was going to be held out of practice or held out of team activities, only doing individual drills because of tightness. Now, they didn't say what the tightness was. Was it his leg? Was it his back? We don't know for sure, but he had some tightness. He did, like I said, there was a clip of him doing some individual drills. He looked pretty good, but again, they want to hold him out. John Michael Schmitz, this is some of the good news, if you want to call it good news. He wasn't on the field, but he was on the field. John Michael Schmitz was in pads today, and he was working out on the sideline. So we got to see him work a little bit. He's coming back, again, fully padded. Looked like he had his shoulder pads on from the clip that I saw. But that's good news for me, especially with the situation going on with Greg Van Roten right now. There were also some injuries during the practice. I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but we had DJ Davidson go down. Not sure how serious the issue was. Jack Stahl, the tight end, went down. BFW also checked himself out of practice as well. And then Joshua Zoodle. Joshua Zoodle is probably the I guess the biggest injury of the day. He was carted off the field. They said that what the reports were that he was limping around and having to be carted off the field. I didn't see like an air cast or anything like that, so not exactly sure what the extent is of that injury, but he was carted off the field. So that's going to be those notes about the injuries. Brian Daboll was at the podium, and Brian Daboll, from what I saw, it wasn't a lot said. Again, they've had a lot of practices this week. It's just so much new stuff you can tell people. But there were some questions, and he did field some questions in regards to Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones is pretty much getting all these first-team snaps. He said it at the beginning of training camp, and he means it. There were reports talking about Drew Lock possibly getting some first-team snaps, or if they were willing to give Drew Lock some snaps, and pretty much squashed that. Said he wants Daniel Jones to get as many reps with the top 4 wide receivers as possible. He wants them to build that chemistry. He wants to build the continuity. He wants to get timing down with the top 4 wide receivers, understandably so. This is a big deal. This is a big year, and a lot of things need to be in place. And having continuity, chemistry, the timing down with your wide receivers is very, very important. He also said that sometimes he forgets that Daniel Jones is coming back off an injury, coming back off of that ACL, because he's still moving around pretty well. There's no hesitation in his movement when he's rolling out, when he's stepping up in the pocket. He doesn't see any hesitation, and sometimes he forgets that he is coming back off the ACL. And listen, that's fantastic news. As a person that thought that he wouldn't even be ready for training camp, to see that even the coach is noticing, or not even noticing, any kind of hitches and stuff with his movement, that's fantastic. Brian Daboll also talked about Tyrone Tracy, Neighbors, and Theo Johnson. You know, some of his 3 offensive draft picks, and saying that these guys have impressed him on how fast they're picking up the playbook, how hard they're working to get everything down. And he knows that, you know, they're going to play a big part in this offense, or should play a big part in this offense, especially Malik Neighbors and especially Theo Johnson. Tyrone Tracy, right now is battling for the RB2 spot, in my opinion. Could he? We have people also saying that he could possibly be the running back 1 by the end of the season. I don't know about all that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Very talented player. So let's get into these practice notes. But before we do that, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you are a New York Giants fan, the way that I'm a New York Giants fan, that's true blue, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. The channel is growing, and it's all because of people like you. Thank you very much. Okay, just some practice notes. We'll start with the starting offensive line. I saw that was one of the first tweets that I saw. Starting offensive line was, of course, I'm going left to right. We have AT, Runyon, GVR, Greg Van Roten, Aaron Stinney, and Jermaine Illuminor. And like I said, we have to stop this experiment of GVR at center. It's not his position. We saw him get ran over a few times during the offensive line versus defensive line drills. To me, it just does not make sense to experiment with GVR at center. I understand you might want to do right by Stinney and let him get some snaps on the right side after you've moved him from the left guard spot. But if you're already moving Runyon from right guard to left guard, and he's pretty much stated he didn't want to do that, you're not saving anybody's feelings. Everybody knows what's going on. The chemistry between GVR and Illuminor last year gives him the leg up at that right guard spot, and it just makes sense to me. But again, things have to play out. I understand why they're doing it, but I absolutely disagree with GVR getting snaps at center. Also, special guest today, we had Brian Baldinger, at camp today, at practice today, and normally when he's in the building, that means he's doing some set for NFL Network. We know he's a correspondent for them, so you're probably going to see either clips of that maybe this afternoon, maybe this evening with their shows, depending on which set or which show he's going to be on. So let's go ahead and get into some of these practice notes, right? So I saw reports, I saw tweets about the O-line being a little sloppy, some false starts, even to the point where Carmen Priscillo made these guys do push-ups. It's kind of funny because, you're punishing guys, push-ups. I think Joe Judge, but you know what? I try to push that to the side. If these guys are messing up, you have to find some way, I guess, to discipline or try to get them to stay focused and not want to make those mistakes. So it is what it is. But they did, the defensive line worked on some stunts and twists. The offensive line worked on combo blocking. That's something that the New York Giants have had a hard time doing. I mean, for a long time, for the most part, we couldn't pick up stunts. We couldn't pick up twists to save our quarterback's life. To save the running back's life, we couldn't do it. And I'm happy to see that we're working out on those combo blocking during those drills. It depended on who was out there, who was participating in the drills. The tackles looked like they did pretty well. AT is solid. He was stonewalling Burns. He was stonewalling Kayvon Thibodeau. But when it came to the interior, this is where we saw GVR, Greg Van Roten, struggle. He was getting pushed back by guys like Nacho. Of course, Dexter Lawrence is a monster, so no matter who you put in front of him, it's just monster activity. But, these guys were doing those type of practices, and the defense kind of won that outside of the two tackles. Let's see what else my notes have to say. Okay, so with Darius Slayton being held out of team activities, we saw more and more Jalen Hyatt, and we did see him connect with Daniel Jones on a few different routes, some touchdowns as well during the individual drills when it was the wide receivers versus the cornerbacks. In team activity, there was a touchdown, a would-be touchdown to Jalen Hyatt in the back corner of the end zone. But when you go and look at the tape, there was a spin move by Brian Burns. He has debuted the spin move, and it was perfect on Jermaine Illuminor. Daniel Jones didn't even feel the pressure, and had that been a real game, he's probably coughing that up. He is probably coughing that up, but instead, he rolls right, steps up in the pocket a little bit, and finds Jalen Hyatt in the back of the end zone. But again, for what? The play was pretty much over. But I'm saying that Brian Burns did have multiple sacks. Kayvon Thibodeau, multiple sacks. Up and down day for Daniel Jones. Like normal. Okay, you win some, you lose some. But like I said, it was a better showing for the secondary during team activities. During one-on-ones, guys were getting cooked. One-on-ones, we saw Neighbors cook Deonte Banks. We saw who was it? We saw Hyatt beat, I believe it was Andrew Phillips. Oh no, that was Darnay Holmes. We saw Isaiah McKenzie, beat Andrew Phillips. And speaking of Isaiah McKenzie, he was another guy that went down today with an injury. It looked like he collided with Deontay Johnson, a linebacker. Might have took a knee to the thigh, knee to the back, or something like that. But he was also a guy that went down during practice. Where was I? Okay, I want to talk about some of the breakups. So I have Drew Phillips. Drew Phillips had some breakups, and he had one good pass breakup against Malik Neighbors on 11-on-11. And again, that was after him getting beat constantly by McKenzie during the one-on-ones. We did have an interception from Jason Pinnock, so we did get a Jason Pinnock sighting. He's been very quiet. We've heard a lot about Dane Belton. Obviously, we were worried about not Malik Neighbors, but we were worried about Tyler Nubin, coming back off of injury. You had Alex Johnson playing safety yesterday, getting intercepted, but we finally got a interception from Jason Pinnock. So that was fantastic for him. That was against Daniel Jones. Flott had a good day when it came to 11-on-11s. He had a couple of pass breakups as well. And again, I already talked about, I'm going down my notes, I already talked about the spin move by Brian Burns. Like I said, he would have, bad things there. And if he can land that move in the game and get that kind of free hit on the quarterback, I think it'll be a turnover for sure. So when it comes to the offense, again, up and down day. They did work on the back shoulder throws. We saw a lot of back shoulder throws to Malik Neighbors, to Jalen Hyatt. Some beautiful ball placement by Daniel Jones today in those individual drills. I even had to tweet about it because it was one to Hyatt where the ball placement was so perfect. The cornerback couldn't do anything about it. And it was really good coverage too on that play. But just when you have great ball placement, it really doesn't matter, especially with a back shoulder throw. It's almost an undefendable play. We did see some guys talk at the end of practice. Jalen Hyatt was talking about what he did to help improve, himself this summer. And he said that he's working on his speed, his explosiveness, route running, of course. He talked about the wide receiver room, how everybody feeds off of everybody, and that Neighbors absolutely brings a certain level, a raised level of intensity to that wide receiver room, and everybody else is feeding off of that. That's something that you want to hear. When we drafted Malik Neighbors, I remember saying how much weight you want to put on the shoulders of this kid. But you already see that this guy is being a leader in the wide receiver room at 20 years old, but he just turned 21. But that wide receiver room is pretty young. Darius Slayton, you have McKenzie, who's older too. But as far as the guys that are going to be impacting the offense, the top 4 wide receivers, all these guys are young. And Malik Neighbors has already shown himself to be a leader, both on the field and I guess in the locker room as well when it comes to that wide receiver room. And that's something that you love to hear. We don't want to always put heavy expectations on a rookie, but he seems to be bearing that pretty well. We'll see what happens during the joint practices with the Detroit Lions. Hopefully it's that same type of energy, that same type of intensity, and I believe that it's going to be just that. So that's going to be my video, my recap of day 8 of training camp. The team is off tomorrow. I believe they're off tomorrow, and then they come back Sunday before those joint practices when Detroit comes out here on Monday and Tuesday. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.